Hello, everybody. Dave Neal here, stand-up comic, host of Bachelor Nation News. Happy Friday. Happy April Fool's Day. And we've got a fourth video on this channel. Plus, we have another Will Smith, Chris Rock update on the Dave Neal Show. I'm telling you what, this story keeps on getting interesting, this Dave Neal Show. So go check that out afterwards if you haven't already. Watch that. It's all the non-Bachelor related content. And here we have Jason Tartick explaining how he got fired. Now, we've made a story in the past about how Caitlin Bristow got him fired because she had a podcast where she mentioned, some sexual things, and then his boss was like, no, this ain't going to work. But in this podcast episode right now, on Millennial Made, he talks about really how he was suffering so much through his banking job. I know a lot of people just don't like where they're at with work. I mean, there's a national movement with work reform. People want to get paid more. It's archaic how many hours a lot of us work when the world's so automated. A lot of people are just sitting at their desk pretending to do something, watching my Patreon channel, and I appreciate you at patreon.com/Dave Neal. If that's what you want to do, patreon.com/Dave Neal. We have more members than we've ever had, 245. Thank you guys so much. Here's what Jason had to say. I'm going to show you the Spark Notes version of this clip here.
Be and act like something I wasn't. And I was in the middle of a meeting and I excused myself to go to the bathroom and I closed the door and I'm in a big executive's bathroom.
Good audio.
Close the door and I hit the deck. I totally pass out. So I'm like sitting in a pool of sweat, looking as like white as a ghost, hoping that when I went back in, I didn't look as bloodless as I felt, throwing water on myself. I get through the meeting. I don't think anyone completely knew what happened, but I got home and the first thing I'm thinking, instead of how do I start listening to my body and myself, instead of doing that, I'm literally thinking, how do I camouflage it? I can't show this weakness. I can't show that I'm like mentally having this anxiety. If I do that, that's perceived as unsuccessful. So I went to a psychiatrist and I got Xanax and beta blockers. But then I was thinking, well, I can't be popping pills in the middle of a meeting if I'm a panic attack. So I started hiding them in Altoid cases.
Oh my God.
And every day I would bring them to work. But then what happened is people would hear it and they would want a mint. And they or make too much noise. And
Give him a Xanax mint. They're like, I love those mints you gave me. Feeling great.
I'm like, well, how can I camouflage that? And it got so crazy. I took Listerine strips, Listerine strips.
God. Yeah.
Took them all out and I would put in my Xanax and my beta blockers and I'd put them in my coat. And I was doing so much to camouflage my mental situational anxiety within my career. Because to your point, in most organizations, not all, but in most, they don't have time for that. If you're perceived as having panic attacks, you're weak. You can't be in front of a client. How can't you do that? Yeah. And so I just compartmentalized my emotions and tried to, as far as I could, disconnect my emotions with my behaviors.
Wow. Talks about the toxic hustle culture out there in the world. And we have this problem with our healthcare system anyway, where rather than deal with the issues within, we'd rather take the ibuprofen than wondering why we've got a headache. We'd rather put a Band-Aid on the open wound than deal with what caused that wound. So taking Xanax and beta blockers when in fact, he was feeling those feelings because his gut, his intuition was saying, you're not supposed to be here. You're not supposed to be spending this much time stressing about things that just don't matter, right? And there he is, a VP at a bank, I think everyone's dressed up like the penguin suits, like, oh, purpose. It doesn't matter. None of it does. No one's health, or mental health or physical health should pay the price for a job that whenever the situation comes, they'll fire you. Whenever the situation comes when they don't need you, you're gone, right? So let's go to the 257 mark. We're just going to go through what he did to sort of overcome all of this and how The Bachelor was involved.
To get approval from my boss to go on the
show. So he says he needs to get approval to go on The Bachelorette.
And so it was like a hot piece of paper. It went from his hand, so the regional's hand, to this hand, ended up at the president of the bank.
Oh, you're talking about the Bachelor?
The memo to go on The Bachelor.
Oh,
while I was working at the bank.
Yeah.
And the president of the bank was like, sure, the kid's been good here. I'll let him go. And then the HR executive storms into his office like, do you know what you just approved? This is a story that was told to me by my manager. Do you know what you just approved? And he's like, yeah, I'll be fine, But I went on the show, got back from the show, went right back to work. And then it was about a year later so Caitlin's podcast, you've been on it, Off the Vine, she's got these confessions, right? And so she tells a confession. You'll get a kick out of this.
Mine was how I got drunk in the middle of a work day.
That was yours?
Yeah.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
So you might have gotten in trouble if you were still working. So,
you were still working at the company.
Working at the company. And she tells a confession about the first time we hook up.
We already made the video about that confession. essentially they had some sexy time, and then Jason didn't share any of this. Caitlin shared it, and it got back to the bosses.
Expecting you to come in today and resign. I was like, well, I'm not resigning. I've worked for this company for 10 years. I've had 7 promotions, every single annual review, which I have paper. I've met or exceeded expectations. And these are like words that didn't even come out of my mouth. And
I never understood in cultures, in work culture, why people resign when they don't want to and they're expected to resign. It's like, fire me. Tell me why you're firing me. And if they don't dot all their T's and cross their I's or whatever the kids say, if none of that happens, maybe you sue them. I don't know. Is a wrongful termination?
Pretty much putting this ultimatum, like no podcasting, no social media, no side hustle without the bank's approval.
What?
Or you got to go restart yourself outside the company, and let's just have let's have cordial exit. And so what I did was just that I restarted myself outside the company.
Yeah, you have a book.
Created a company called Restart to help people do it the same way.
There you go. Oh, that's okay. So you have a company to help people do the same thing.
Yeah.
Because I think we unfortunately live in an unequitable economy right now, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like really you need to work, right?
Unequitable.
And all that, and in order to survive. But a lot of people, I think, are seeing that they value their mental health more than their company does, or that it's being pushed to limits where they're becoming unwell.
Now, we talk about this all the time. Don't rent out your time. Not a phrase I came up with, but I talk about this all the time. There's either you build equity into your dreams or you're renting your time out into someone else's. You might love your job. I get it. They gave you a standing desk, a treadmill. You know what I mean? They don't mind if you go on Dave's YouTube channel at lunch. I get it. I understand. But the only way you can truly protect yourself from work conditions changing, maybe your boss gets transferred and you have a new boss and you hate them, and then you're imprisoned by them and you go, well, it's a good job and there's health care, and if 30 years go by, I'll get a pension. Get the hell out of here, guys. Get the hell out of here. Now, again, of course, if you're in a happy position, you're in a happy position. But some people have that little flame, that little dream that they're not going to get, that itch that they're not going to get scratched from the job that they're at. And all you can do is find a way to live in an equitable economy. He said it's an unequitable economy. That's because other companies have sort of rigged the game so that you have to work for them. You can't just open a mom and pop shop next to a Walmart. They'll swallow you alive. But what you can do is access the global economy known as the internet, right? And find whichever ways it is to increase your business. If you have a company where you want to, sell children's books, by all means, become an expert in all the children's books groups on Facebook. And shout out to some of our friends there, Nikki and others that are doing just that, right? So the key is to finding out what you love to do. They say, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life, right? But it's true, right? You get up at 5 a.m. because you're pursuing your dreams. You find the value there. So Jason, he might have been making $250,000. He might have been making pretty good money, right? Well, what does he make now? About $1 million. He's making $1 million a year right now. And that's probably going to go up. You know why? Because he's going to get equity in a media studio. He's going to have other podcasters come on. You can just see the growth already happening. So smart with his money. And he's been the sort of godfather of Bachelor Nation talking about money. As everyone's lips are sealed, oh, geez, don't share what you make. He's doing the kind of he's doing the Lord's work when it comes to the financial goals that are out there. And people get mad in the audience. They go, oh my gosh, it must be nice. I have to do this and that, and my job is. And it's don't get mad at him. Don't get mad at him for evolving in the system. Find out how you can get a slice of the pie. Let me know how you're going to get a slice of that pie, guys. Leave a comment below. And we'll see you guys in a little bit. If you want to join the Patreon community, patreon.com/Dave Neal. Bye, everybody.